Hello everyone and welcome to Senior Susie Stamps. This is our little series that we're doing now called Make With Me, and I designed this little blue paper on Canva and called it Fields of Blue, and a lot of you have asked me for it. If you want a copy of this paper, please type Fields of Blue in the subject line and send it to my email address, which is down below in the description box. That's the only way you can get this paper. I have some supplies on hand, some fussy cutting scissors. We will be doing a little bit of fussy cutting. And these have been my scissors of choice for a long, long time, these little cutter bees. But I've been seeing some videos using these little surgical dental, I guess they're called, curved scissors. So I thought I would try those and see if I like them. They were reasonably priced. I got them from my Walmart store. I'm sure they're available in lots of other places. I'm also probably going to use some diamond dots today. And these are a real pretty blue that I thought would go nicely with this blue paper. Of course, I have my glue and my other stuff that we'll need. Probably will need to stamp a little sentiment. And then I've got some cards that are made up. We'll look at those later. As we go through this little series of cards. So in this printable that I fixed for you all, there is a set of ephemera that we can either punch or cut, and we will be doing both of those. And there was a cutting template. When I print on my printer, and I'm assuming it's the same way with yours when you print on your printer, my printer doesn't go all the way to the edge. So the first step I'm always going to do is to trim this white edge off. And so that ends up being a little less than the 11 inches. It's really more like 10 3/4 or somewhere between 10 1/2 and 10 3/4. And because I have my little small guillotine cutter here, and it only has an 8 1/2 inch deck, I'm just going to cut the two short sides off to begin with. And it doesn't look like I got it straight. Imagine that. There we go, and then I'm going to flip it and cut the other side off as well. And there we go. And so let's measure this and see what I've got on mine. And it is, well, 10 3/4, more or less. So what we're going to do on the first cut here is cut it 5 1/2. And if it bothers you not to be exactly the same cut as I am, then please take note of the orientation of the paper. And let's do it this way. Let's put the darker blue with the little white flower up in this corner. See, there's an ombre kind of effect here where it goes from light blue up to a little darker blue. Well, let's put the darker blue at the top. And then we're going to cut 5 1/2 inches off according to the cutting diagram. So that's the first thing that we want to do. And then I'm going to cut my white borders off of here because I can get to it now. And I believe on the lighter blue side, I'm going to cut that to 4 inches. So that's my first piece. And then this should be approximately 4 1/4, which it is. And I'm going to cut it to 2 3/4, so it'll give me 2 equal panels that way. So there's the first half of this page. And now I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to cut my little white pieces off. This is another zero scrap project. It looks like I've got a little bit of white border showing there. I'm just going to leave that because I'll probably put a little black edge on some of this as we go along. Now, coming back to this cutting template, let's cut this. Let's cut from this side going that way, okay? So we're going to cut the 2 3/4 off the light side. Make sense? So my light ombre is on this side, and I'm going to cut it at 2 3/4. So this piece should be 2 3/4 by 5 1/4, and it is, more or less. So we'll put that over here. And then this piece will have to be a little bit alert now. The darker ombre is at the top and the lighter ombre is at the bottom. And I'm going to cut 3 1/2 inch pieces off of this side. So it starts at 5 1/2. I'm going to cut it at 5, 4 1/2, and 4. And those are some nice little pieces that will go on the inside of some cards. And then I'm going to flip it to the other side and cut another 1/2 inch off. So that takes us down to 3 1/2. And then I'm going to cut this little piece that was next to the white off, so that this is going to be 4 3/4 then. And so all these little strips over here, let's just kind of move them to the side. And we have our major players now over here. So now, that's what we've got. And I'm going to go ahead and clean my desk up a little bit and get some ink daubers out here to do a little inking on the edges and get my sample cards pulled out for us to look at. So here's the first card that we're going to make. It uses a panel that's 5 1/4 by 4. So I'm going to take a little 1/4 inch off of this piece right here that I forgot to do. And that's the largest panel. So I'm just going to trim this off a little tiny bit to make it down to 5 1/4. Now I'm going to save this little strip. I don't think we'll need it. It's probably going to be some recycle fodder. And I think for this set of cards, just to be a little different than the sample, I believe I'm going to put a little black edge around the outside. And I'm just going to use my Memento Black and a little foam dauber and just put some black around the edge. Adds a little bit to the cards. So let's go ahead and get this glued down, and I believe this one is, so it's kind of a top-fold landscape card. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue this down. This is my Books by Hand PVA glue. And I think I'll put the darker ombre at the top on this one. Let me look again just to make sure. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine. So there's the card base for the first card. And let's pull the second card. And that's this one. And so that uses one of these 3 pieces, these 2 pieces that are 4 1/4 by 2 3/4. And again, I'm going to put that on a top fold landscape card. I kind of like to do top fold cards for sending cards out to people because they stand up so nicely on display. And I think a lot of people who receive handmade cards keep them for a long time. Now, I don't know if you can see it or not, but that little white line is there, and after we ink it, it goes away. So that's why I say you don't have to be totally exact on these cuts with this paper when you're cutting that little small white border off, but you do have to cut most of it off. These are really simple cards to make. They do require a little fussy cutting. Now this one doesn't seem to have too much ombre on it, so I'm just going to put it down. And so there's our second card. We'll come back to embellishing these once we get all the card bases made. And here's our third card. And this is that panel that is 3.5 by 4 3/4. So it's this larger panel. And I believe I'm going to put the big flower up at the top, just like this example was. I'm going to black my edge. Let me know in the comments whether you're liking this little Make With Me series. Oh, and while we're on the subject of comments, I wanted to let you know, this is going on another top fold card, but it's going to be a portrait style card. I wanted to let you know that coming out a few minutes after this video ends is the little reveal on the workbooks, because I do have some in stock now. We're doing small batch printing, and so if you want a workbook, please let me know by emailing me, and my email address is always in the description box. And if you will, please go and watch that video so you know which book you'd like to order. It's only a really short video, like 4, 5, 6 minutes, so it's not very long. So now that finishes this card. Let's see what else we got over here. Oh, here's another one using this smaller panel. So let's get it put down, and I'm going to put it on another top fold portrait style card. And I think I'm going to put I'll put the large flower that I have shown here on the bottom on this one. Where'd my little dauber go? And see, that has a little white border showing, and it completely goes away. It kind of depends on how your printer pulls the paper through. And while we're talking about paper, this is 65-pound smooth white paper that's, I think the company is called Accent. I'll leave a shortcut, or I'll leave a link in the description box below. I get it from Amazon. And it incidentally is the same way that the workbooks are printed on. So they're really nice, heavy paper in the workbook. And they should hold up to time very well. So here's the third card base. And let's see what else we've got. And that would be this one. And that uses this long skinny panel right here. And it's going to be another portrait style top fold card. So here we go. So I'm going to ink it up, and I believe I'm going to put my large flower up at the top. And then we'll get on to the ephemera sheet. And we'll get those all ready to go. And we'll get these cards finished up. It makes 5 really nice cards, and it can be used with any paper that you have to use up in your stash that's 8.5 by 11. And if you don't want to trim that extra little 1/4 inch or 3/8 of an inch off to come down to this size, just adjust your sizes a little bit on your cuts, and it's going to be fine. So let's go ahead and get this one glued on. And I'm going to pull that all the way over to the left side of my card and leave an equal border on 3 sides. So here, here, and here should be an equal border so that it looks nice on the card. And so that's what we end up with for the final card. Now, let's go to we're going to use these, so don't get rid of them. Let's go over to this one now and do some cutting. You'll notice it has 4 sentiments. So 5 cards, 4 sentiments. You're going to have to stamp on your own, which I know you know how to do. And you'll have enough paper left with your cuts to do that. Now the first cut, I'm going to cut with these images on my cutting deck, and I'm going to cut it at I'm going to cut it at 5 5/8, and that will give me a little bit of a border on my sentiments. There we go, right like that, see? And then I'm going to move over and cut it at 5. So that makes these sentiments 5/8, and actually I should have cut it at a half, shouldn't I? Well, let's just cut that. Don't do like I do. Do it right. Let's cut it at a half this time, Julia, and see what we end up with. I'm going to put this back on my cutting deck. Hold it snug and trim it off. There. Now that's what I'm talking about. So that's ready. And now this one that's at the bottom, hello my friend, I'm just going to cut it and get it out of the way. And there we go. And I'm going to cut about a 1/2 inch off of this strip right here for my sentiment that I'm going to stamp. And now I'm going to get some punches. And let's see which one. I never can remember if it's 1 1/2 inches or 1 3/4. That's 1 3/4 inches. 50-50 chance to get it right, and I got it wrong. So this is 1 3/4 inches, round circle punch. You could use your cutting dies if you wanted to. And I'm just going to punch all 6 of these out and use them as punched circles. It makes it very easy to utilize this little bit of ephemera that we've got going here. I hope you all saw the little extra post that now this one's just a little too deep to cut with my punch, so all I'm going to do is take my scissors and shallow that up a little bit so that I can thread it up into my punch. See that? Right like that. Now, let's clear this out of the way and go to the second piece. And I'm going to trim my sentiment off. And then we're going to get some different sized punches. Let's see, I think I'll trim about, a quarter, maybe 3/8 of an inch off the bottom. And then I'm going to cut it at about a half, more or less. It doesn't have to be exact. You just want your borders on either side of your sentiment to be approximately the same. Now, let's see. What else do we have? I'm going to want to use my punch here, so I need to get rid of some of this excess. Let's just do that now on both of these sides. And then we'll be able to work our little punches in around here to start. Okay, and let's see what size punches we want now. I believe these little ones are 3/4 of an inch. There we go. See how nice that's going to work for us. It cuts just a little bit off, but that is okay. Now that's the 2 3/4, and then I'm going to move up to my 1 inch punch. And I'm going to try to work my way around here and get these little 1 inchers out of the way. And there's that one. And this one. And this one. And there we go. And now I'm going to have to take my scissors and trim a little bit more off so I can get my punches in. And I can do some fussy cutting. And let's go to a 1 1/4 inch punch. Not quite big enough. Let's go to a 1.5 inch punch and see if we can get, no, I can't. We're going to have to fussy cut these. I'm sorry. But these are the easy ones to cut. So remember now, when I fussy cut, I like to kind of rough trim my images out so that I don't have so much waste to deal with my fussy cut scissors. So there's one. And let's do this other big one. And we'll do a little side-by-side comparison on my cutter bee scissors and these little curved dental scissors and see, I'll give you my opinion on whether or not it's worth getting another little pair of scissors. It might be. You never know. I'll set these little guys aside for a minute. All right. So now I'm going to try to cut the white off. And all I'm going to do is hold my scissors as still as I can and move my image. And you'll see that these little images that we've got today are very easy. And see, I just keep snipping that stuff off so that I don't have to deal with it hanging up on my side of the scissors over here, because I don't really like that. It just kind of challenges your view a little bit, and it also just gets in the way. So I just keep cutting them off. And there's going to be enough contrast in the background that if you get a little thin on your cutting border into the blue or the black, don't worry about that. It'll all be covered up by the pattern paper in behind it. And here we go. And one more coming around this way. And now we're going to switch to those little curved scissors and see how that works. Well, I'm going to hold my breath here till I finish. But I'm thinking that these might actually be a little easier to cut around the curves. And they don't seem to be bothered going on the straights either. That's interesting to me, because I figured with it being a curved blade scissor that you might struggle on the straights, but you just don't seem to. So this is a pretty good little option for cutting. I saw this on an English channel. Susan Hardy, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, uses this kind of scissors. And I've seen her channel off and on over the months, and I thought, well, you know what, I think I'll just try a pair of those. Well, sure enough, I think she's got it pegged here for fussy cutting. The blades are smaller, so they're not going to get in the way. That was easy. Easy. So I'll go ahead and cut these 4 leftovers and come back in just a minute. You stop the video now and cut yours. Okay, here we are. And here's the my verdict on the scissors. These work very, very well, but they hurt my thumb. So if you have smaller fingers than I do, probably wouldn't bother you, but I went back to using my cutter bees on the final too. Just so you know, that's my opinion. They work great, but they're not as well padded, I guess, as these are. So now, let's go back and pull our cards. And we'll go in reverse order, just because that's what I've got here. And I'm going to use Happy Day to You as my first sentiment. I am going to put this back on my cutting deck, just so that I can get a good straight cut. And I'm going to put this at about that far cutting between, and then it should cut at 3.5 and give you a nice little sentiment that way. So that goes with this first card. And we're going to pull some of these punched items to go on this card. This one, let me scoot this stuff out of the way so we don't get confusing. So we're going to use these 3 punched items here and this sentiment. And I'm just going to glue these all down flat. And what I want to do is to trim a little flat edge off of my blue flower, because I want it to look like it sits behind my sentiment, but it really doesn't. So I'm going to cut it like that, and we'll trim the side of it off by hand with our scissors in just a minute. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a little black edge on all of these elements, just to be consistent with the black edge that we put on the original patterned paper. And I'll go ahead and glue these down flat. These are nice flat cards. We'll put it up about like that, bring it all the way to the edge, and it looks like my card here needs just a tiny little bit of trimming. Let me do that now while I'm thinking about it. I don't ever like to send my cards out that need to be trimmed, so I try to do that when I'm making them. Let's see if we can get this little thing straight here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of black around these edges here. And glue these down flat. And it snugs up right underneath that Happy Day to You on the edge of your card here, tying these 2 pieces together that way. And then my little blue one comes up and offset it about like that. And you can see I brought it all the way to the edge over here so that we get a little square cut on this side. Let me show you. Right like that. And then I'm going to go back with just a tiniest little bit of black edge right there. And then this little smaller black flower we're going to use on this as well. And we're going to glue it down flat. And that goes right there. Now I'm going to use one of these longer strips on the inside. You remember the ones that we cut to 1/2 inch. Just a little bit of black edge on that and a little bit of glue. And there we go. And it goes over here on the side, right like that. And then I'm going to use this one and this one on the inside. And again, just to be consistent, I'm going to put a little black edge around the outside of these. And this one's going to come right down here like this. And then this one is going to set off the outside of the card. And we're going to trim it like we did the one on the outside. Right like that. There we go. Flip our card over and trim it off. And just to be consistent, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of black edge on that. So that card's finished. We may come back and do a little bling on it, so don't go away. Okay, here's our second card. And this one is going to use the Hello My Friend, right like this. And I'm going to cut it to where it has an equal border over here on my cutting deck so that I get a good square cut. And that means that this should be a 3 1/4 inch sentiment. I'm not going to black the edge on this one. put it about a third of the way up on the pattern paper. There we go. And then I want to use this image, and we're going to bring it right in here like so. And I don't think I'll black the edge on that part of it either. And we're going to hang it off the side and cut a little bit off of it just to add a little more interest to this. So about like so, I think would be fine. And here's another nice flat card. I'm going to trim this little petal off from the inside, taking care not to cut into our card base. And here we go. And then we should have, over here in this pile of stuff, a shorter piece. And I'm going to put a little bit of a black edge on it. And I'm going to glue it to the inside of the top of this card. And I'm going to push it over there towards the right just a little bit. About like that. And then I'm going to bring one of these. Let me see. Oh, I think I'm going to bring this one in. And it'll cover up the other end of this strip down here for us, since that piece was just a little tiny bit short, remember. And there we go. That card's ready for some final embellishing. Now, let's do this one and see what else we've got as far as sentiments go. We've still got 3 nice strips here to use. And we've got a nice big wide hello my friend. I believe I'm going to go ahead and glue that one on as is and trim it off the sides. So I'm just going to center this about a third of the way up. There we go. And then I'm going to take this piece and get my fussy cutting scissors back out and trim one of these 2 out. I promise you this is the last fussy cut that we're going to do on this project. And I'm not worrying about that little bit of white edge that shows sometimes. It doesn't matter. It just adds to the flower interest for us. And just run your scissors around the outside of those petals and keep moving around your little flower. And then we're going to decoupage this up onto the other little circle here that we have punched. There we go. So now we're going to go ahead and glue this on the center of it and kind of offset it from the flower that's there in the circle punch and turn it to where we kind of like what we're seeing. There we go. And then we're going to glue this whole thing down to the front of this card. But before we do, I'm going to trim the sides off of my sentiment. There we go. And there we go. And then this little guy is going to live right up here. And I'm going to bring him to the edge of the card, but not over the edge of the card. Right like that. And we're definitely going to put a jewel on the inside of that. A little flower right there. And then on the inside of this card, I'm going to use these 2 little flowers and put them down here in the corner. Stack them up. Just for a little inside interest. Right like this. Put the larger one down first, and then the smaller one. And just for a little extra interest, I hung a little bit off the side. I'm going to trim that off the back. There we go. That card's ready to embellish. And then, let's see, we've got two more. This one is going to be a top fold card, like this. And let me see. I think I'll stamp a sentiment. Let me see if I can find one. There we are. I'll put my ink away. And this one I'm going to glue on so that it comes with hugs all the way on the blue panel, and the rest of it will come off over here. That makes sense? So let's get that done. You have to be a little careful with your VersaFine ink because it takes a little bit longer to dry, and sometimes it'll smudge on you if you're not careful. So see where I've got the S on hugs all the way onto this panel? That's what we're going to do with that one. I'm going to flip this over and rub it from the back. Oops. I don't need that leftover stuck on there, do I? There we go. And I'll go ahead and trim this off. There we go. And then I'm going to use this little flower on top of the sentiment. Right like that. There we go. And then this one that's circle punched, I'm going to put over here on the corner of the blue panel, which softens that and kind of ties it up nicely in that card. See? Right like that. There we go. Now let's see, what are we going to put on the inside of this? I've got some long strips left. So let's just pick one of those. It'll go across the bottom. Get that glued in. There we are. Very nice. And then we can take maybe this one and put on the inside of this card. Here we go. Right like that. And this card is ready to put some embellishments on. And let's do our last one here. And we're going to use the Sending Happy Thoughts on this one. And it glues all the way across this panel. So I'm just going to put some glue on and put it down. And I'm going to put it about 3/4 to an inch up off the bottom. About like that. There we go. And then I'm going to use this image on the front of this card. And I'm only going to glue the center down. And I'm going to bring it all the way onto the card so I don't have to trim it. And you may have to work with these just a little bit to figure out where you're going to place them. But I'm going to put mine right there. And then I'm going to take one more strip and put it on the inside of this card. Right like this. There we go. And I believe I will use this little one in here on the inside. About like that. There we go. Now, let's see. I have two little tiny pieces of paper left. I have this one and I have that one. So I know that we can use those somewhere. Let's see if we can figure it out. Okay, we're going to the back. We've got something on the inside of all of them. So let's just choose a card. Pick a card, any card. We're going to the back. And here we go. And if you stamp the back of your cards with a handmade stamp, then you can stamp around your little piece here on the back side. There we go. And I'm going to glue this one right on there. Over here on this side. We'll finish that card nicely. And I will just go ahead and stamp my Made By stamp on the back of this, so you can see how it looks. Right like that. It looks very nice, finished card on the back side. Now let's see what we can do for a few little gems on these 5 cards that we have just made. I'm pulling out the ones that I made earlier. There we go. On this one, I'm going to put a clear gem in the center. And I want to choose a little bit larger gem for the center of that one. So I have some gold and silver gems here. And I just want to pull one of them out and put in the very center of this little embellishment right here. And there we go. And that's all I'm doing with that one. And then I'm going to open my, these are diamond dots. And they have a little shimmer and shine to them, which I thought would be really pretty on these cards. So let's see if we can add some little gems to these 4 that are left. And there's one. Now let's do this one. And add a little bit more interest in there. And maybe put one in the very center of that flower would be pretty too, wouldn't it? So there's card number 2. Let's look at card number 3, or 4, I guess it is. And I'm going to go ahead and put one in the center here. And maybe a couple there. That might be enough. Let's see. Well, there we go. And before we get out of here today, I think that needs a few more gems, don't you? Yep, I think so. I'm going to do one more here and put one maybe down here. There we go. Before we get out of here today, I want to show you the paper we're going to use for next week's video, because it has a cute little pup on it. And we're going to name him in the video next week. I'm going to do a little hat draw, because you all have been so nice to send some sweet names in for this little guy, and he needs a name. Now on this one, I'm just going to put 3 gems on this one, I think, around this black image here. Right here like this. And call it done. Okay, so there we have it. 0 scraps, the way I like it. I don't like scraps left over in my studio. I've been working really, really hard for the last 3 years to get rid of all the scraps in my studio, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I've almost achieved that. I still do have some designer paper scraps, and of course you always have cardstock paper scraps, but there's the cards from today's video, and I hope you have enjoyed them. I've enjoyed making them with you and designing this paper in Canva. So let me know in the comments, and let's look at the paper that you'll need to ask for next week's make if you want to make with me. First of all, here's our little dog. And the names that I've gotten so far are Scruffy, Rags, Kirby, Benjamin Buttons, Rufus, Buddy, Willie, Fuzzy, Festus, Monty Bodkin, Arlo, George, Albert, Danny Boy, Skeeter, Champ, Fritz, and River. So, we'll be putting those in the hat and drawing one out next week. But this is the paper that we're going to be using, and I thought it would make some great dog birthday cards. So that's what we're going to use, and if you will, just put muddy footprints in your email request for this paper, and I'll send it on to you. In the meantime, have a great week, y'all, and I'll talk soon. Bye. Hey, stay tuned for that video on the workbooks now.